hers memorial, and it'll be on the left-hand side of the bus. Just kind of look at, we're not going to stop and walk through the memorial and all that, just the Veterans Memorial, so we'll explain them what's the difference. Okay?
Park in 2013. I was a commander at the time, and it took 2 years for us to complete this project. And this was people in Ivedal's lifetime dream to have a veteran memorial park built in our area. So with the help of our city people and the local business, they all had a helping hand at helping it. We went to different places to get different donations. We estimated this at $50,000 when we started it, and it took all of the $50,000, but we went to different businesses, area businesses, and we come up with the money. Ivedal started this. She donated, raised the first $2,000 of it, but it got to be too big of a project for her, so the Legion took it over. And we also got a $10,000 grant from the Minnesota Area's Council. With that grant, we bought this monument here. It's a battlefield cross. You can read what it says on there. It's to show respect for the people who were killed on the battlefield. So that's you can see in the background Bob St. Germain and Mike St. Germain. Johnson Oil, let them put a flag, thank the veterans, thanks. We have 249 pavers that you can see. If you walk around, you probably see your relative, your grandma's uncles, aunts. And we it's only for the area veterans. I think it's like $175 made of grant.
One thing Joe didn't mention when we dedicated this, Mark Pawson, that would be the son of Ewald and Pawson. there was an eagle circling on top of the memorial here. As you know, that's the national bird. And I'm Keith Bergeron. I'm past commander of the Argyle Legion. I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to congratulate all you basketball, football, you do golf, all the sports, robotics. The way you represent Argyle is great. We appreciate that.
And on these monuments, you can see there's the 6 branches of service: the Army, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, and the Merchant Marines. They're all, there's all these names are all tied back to somebody in our area that's a veteran. There's people from Stephen, there's from Argyle, most of them are from Argyle. There's a few names from Stephen. You can walk up and down. And that's you young people, if you see a veteran on the street or something, don't be scared to go up and say thanks for serving. They like to hear that.
I'd like to thank a lot of you guys too. I know you 2013 you put this up together, but you look around, it's pretty plush green and looks really nice. It's been really taken care of. I know I see you out here quite often, spending a lot of time out here afterwards taking care of it. So I appreciate you. Thank you for doing that. It's really a great addition to the town of Argyle.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, in 2016, we came by the Kurz Memorial on the way here. We wrote the Swanson Memorial with the first memorial after this one built. And it'll lead into the Kurz Memorial. Swanson Memorial, 2016, a friend of Lynn Swanson. Lynn Swanson was killed in Vietnam in May of '69. And a friend of his, a high school friend of his, Jim Levine, called me and asked, is there anything we can do to honor Lynn Swanson? And so about 2 hours later, a friend of his, Radio Drinker, called me and asked the same thing. Is there anything we can do to honor Lynn Swanson? So I brought it to the Legion. I was commander at the time. I brought it to the Legion, and they thought it'd be a good idea to do something. So my wife, Roberta, and I sent out letters to the community and businesses, and we raised about $40,000. From that, we started with a pad. The pad was in the shape of home plate. From there, we put up an arch, said Lynn Swanson Memorial Ballpark. We put a flagpole up. We play soft baseball. Everybody honors the flag. We put in a bench there, and there's a monument. The monument has the names of all 13 veterans that died during war or conflicts. And on the top of that memorial is an eagle. The eagle represents 3 things. It's a national bird. It was the Argyle eagle up until '97, and then it became storm. And it also represented the 104th Airborne, which Lynn Swanson was part of that unit. They were the 101st Airborne, and that bird represented. They were also known as the Puking Buzzards in Vietnam. And from there, when we were raising the money for the Swanson Memorial, people would ask me, why isn't there a Kurz Memorial? John Kurz was killed in Vietnam in November of '67. So I brought it to the Legion again and said, what would you think about building a memorial for John Kurz? And they said, well, there's already a memorial on there. Well, there was a little plaque in memory of John Kurz on that brick wall you saw. And that's pretty much it was dedicated to all veterans. Now we decided that we'd enhance it a bit. In front of it, there were several big trees, and the city went ahead and took the trees out, a couple of trees out so you could see it better. And we started building. First we put up the flagpole, and then we got the arch that says, it used to be Lions Park, and now it's the John Kerr's Memorial Park. We also did the work around it, the border around it, and a couple flower pots. Well, as we were doing that, the mayor, Bob Clausen, decided that, well, we should have a shelter out there. So the Kerr's Memorial had quite a bit of money. We donated $15,000 towards that shelter. And then I found a donor that also gave $10,000. So Bob Clausen did an enormous amount of work to get that shelter done, along with his grandsons and some of the community people there. Other than that, we got 3 memorials here. We're awfully proud of them. You got any questions? All right. You want to take the group picture? Or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Organize another group.
Take some time, you can read, look for a little bit, and we'll load up. 5 or so.
One thing I want to say.
Like in the base, but they set up for each conflict that happens.
For a battle, so we had a
Yeah, their dog. Good time. Yeah, I think we're.
Say sophomores will be together.
I had to retake that when I went to sign up because I did not tell. Well, you're gonna be infantry. And I was like, okay.
Guys, want to come on in? Come on in. These are planning committee.
So, this mural was painted by Nick Reitzel. He's an artist from Carlstead. He's a very successful artist. He's won the walleye stamp contest for Minnesota, if any of you are familiar with that. And then also I think it was a pheasant one that he also won. So he's had a lot of success. He painted this in between 2020 and 2021. It took several months. He did a lot of research. Some of the committee members can be seen on this mural actually because he used us as models. So this actually is Kent Broughton, and then he used myself and then my son as the nurse and then the younger soldier. So he did so much research for this, and yeah, it turned out amazing. You want to tell us about the chronological order that you did?
I'm not going to give a history test. You have teachers that do that for you. So what I'm going to do is go by war here and just mention a few things. This is World War I, and in World War I, there were 116,516 killed in that war. And that was 1918 to 1919. When they went home after the war, the Spanish flu hit. And in the United States, there were 675,000 killed from the Spanish flu. Worldwide, it was 50 million. COVID, supposedly 7 million killed. Then we move on to World War II, because World War I was the war to end all wars, right? So now we're in World War II. World War II was the bloodiest war. And there were 405,399 killed. Of course, that's close. And there are no World War II veterans in Stephen Argyle still alive. And of course, no World War I. Then we went from 1945 to 1951 was the start of the Korean War. And in the Korean War, it was known as the Forgotten War. And it was the first time the military was desegregated. The blacks and whites fought together side by side. And in that war, 36,516 were killed. Then we came to the Vietnam War. And there's different, 1965 to 1975, it was 10 years. But there were advisors in Vietnam, probably starting in 1953. All these veterans here are Vietnam veterans. Some of them served in Vietnam, some of them are Vietnam era veterans that could have been called up at any time. They could have been called in to go to Vietnam. The average age of the men killed in Vietnam was 23 years old. There were 5 16-year-olds, your guys' age, that were killed in Vietnam. It was not a popular war. There were protesters. When you came home from Vietnam, Stephen and Argyle, cities like this wasn't a problem. But when you went through the cities, the bigger cities, you weren't treated very well as a veteran. And then 8.7 million people served in Vietnam. And 30% of them were actually combat. Only 30% served into combat. They're the ones that had the CIB, Combat Infantry badge. They're the ones that gave up a lot of blood and tears for this country. 558,209 soldiers were killed there. Then we moved on to war on terrorism. War started, of course, 9/11, September 11, 2001. 7,077 soldiers were killed. The one thing I noticed after 9/11 and this war, veterans before that weren't too well looked at because of the Vietnam War. But after 9/11, it seemed to bring the nation together, and veterans were thought of more highly than they were back then. So that's pretty much my spiel. We're going to hand it back over to Alicia.
Yes. I can make one comment. There is one World War II veteran in Marshall County.
In Marshall County. Yeah. But not, is that in your folder?
He won't be one.
In where?
He grew up in the one area.
Walter
In more-
Hillman? Walter Hillman?
Walter Hillman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have his interview, it's a good
I
one.
think we and that's the other thing, if you have an aunt, uncle, brother, sister, whatever in the military, have them get a hold of me. I'd like to interview them for the Marshall County Veterans Memorial. You have, and Alicia, we'll go over that. Okay?
Okay, so this big screen here is our digital honor board. So donations were made in honor or else in memory of veterans. So living and people that have passed are on this board. And if we have any information about when they served or what they were involved with, we include that too. So this constantly changes as we receive donations. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is the screen over here. Okay, so this is our website, and it's marshallcomnvets.org. So this is a really big part of our memorial because it's where we have all our interviews. We have over 100 interviews now from veterans. And I'm just gonna go through the website. This is something you can access from home, so you can watch an interview or look at documents anytime you want. So first, visit tab. Okay, so our location, photo of the mural. I also, as you scroll down, we've shared the other memorials that are in Northwest Minnesota. So like the mural that you just went to, the memorial you just went to. We have, a link to that so you can get information about all the different memorials in the area. And then in addition to the memorials, we have information on the Historical Society, and that's located right in Warren here, and they have a really impressive collection of military items in history. So that's something you can check out. It's out by the fairgrounds. Let's see. I'm gonna go to resources next. Okay, this War Service Record book for World War I from Marshall County is really interesting. So the plugin for the program that this book runs on isn't working on this computer right now, so I have it on my iPad. But you basically click on that link and it opens up in a book that you can scroll through. And there's an index at the beginning, and you can find names of people from Marshall County that served here in World War I. So I had a couple of relatives that were in World War I. So like my Andrew Agnieszewski, like you just go to the eyes, look up their name and his history of like where he was living, what he did in the war, and then what he did when he came home. Same with like Anton Petershevsky, a relative of mine, where he was born, what he did, and then what he went home to. We actually have some World War I veteran information on our page. One of those veterans is Conrad Storbakken, and he was in this book also. So there's information about his experience, and he actually lost a limb in battle. Okay, so then going back to interviews and more, you go index by name, index by war, ceremonies and events. So we're going to go to index by name, and as I scroll through, you know, these are all the interviews that we have. So we have a lot. Let's see. There's a few I would like to point out that you probably know who they are, like a few younger people. So I'm going down to the R's for Mace Rominski. He graduated Stephen Argyle in 2021. So his interview is here about his experience in the Army Military Police. Okay, and then he has his photos here. Okay, and then we also have Anae Martinez. She graduated in 2018, and she's Army National Guard Military Police, so she shares her experience doing that, and some photos here as well. So, let's see. We have a few indexed by war, so World War II interviews. One that I'd like to point out is Thomas Kuzna. That would be Mr. Kevin Kuzna's grandpa. And then Daniel Kuzna. He actually has 2 interviews. One was from 2010, and then I got to interview him just a couple months before he passed away in 2020. So it's really interesting to watch the first one, and then 10 years later to watch the second, and he was involved with the paratroopers. So very interesting. We also have some information about, Louis Agnieszewski, who grew up near Stephen. He was a prisoner of war for 5 years, and he was actually in Nagasaki when the atomic bomb dropped, and he just happened to be shoveling coal as a prisoner of war in a brick building, and that saved him. So he got to be right next to General MacArthur when the surrender documents were signed. So some really interesting history there. Let's see. So I'll just go over the rest of the website. So support, tell your parents, this is where the donation information is. So if they want to do anything like that. And then we have news. The memorial was featured in the Northwest Minnesota Foundation newsletter. And that is not loading right now, but typically on the computer, like a PDF document would load here, and I'm not sure why that isn't working right now. And then we have, you know, contact information and then search, so you can type in the name, and, you know, if you search for Smith, Vernon Smith's interview would pop up. So does anybody have any questions about the website? Is there anything I should add, Keith? Yeah. Okay. There's so many interesting stories, and it's so important that they're shared. There's just so much information to go through, and I wish I could share a portion of everybody's interview, but there's just so much information. But it's a really good resource if you have to do, you know, work for a history paper or just want to learn about the experiences of the veterans in our area. So I hope you check it out at home. Thank you.
we can bring that part back home.
Yeah, you sure can. The what, all the pieces, there's Marshall County area, I think, where I have two pop up. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here. Well, you know, it's touchscreen it, so really fun.
So you guys might ask yourselves why we build these memorials every place, and I think the answer is pretty simple. It's we do it to honor the guys that served so that we can have freedoms in this country. And this one is kind of supposed to be different, and I think you saw the difference inside is that we're trying to do things with a website and stuff so that everybody throughout the nation, somebody in California wants to see an interview that their grandfather did or their father did or their brother did, they can do that because of the website that we have going on. So take advantage of that. I don't know, Keith probably told you how many interviews he and Alicia have interviewed, I think probably 140 people or something, so veterans and or families of veterans. So we're hoping that what we're doing is we're keeping that memory alive and that history alive with these folks because there's so much generation to generation history. The park itself started out with Skip Granovich kept coming into the office. I worked at the courthouse. Russ Steer, I was the county assessor for a while, and he kept coming in year after year and many times a year, and he kept telling me we need a tank on the courthouse lawn. And so I went to Brett Brandon, the Veteran Service Officer, and I said, can you look and see if there's any tanks around that we could put on the courthouse lawn or do something out there? And he looked and searched and really hadn't came up with anything. He knew there were some that might be coming available or whatever, but and I didn't think too much of it, and eventually after about 3 or 4 years of Skip, or Carl Granovich Jr. Bugging me about it, one day when he came in the office, he said, I'm not so sure about a tank, but I think we can, if I go to the board, maybe they'll let us do something on the courthouse lawn out there. So I went to the county board and I told them it's not going to cost you any money, I just want permission to use the sure was that it was inclusive, that it wasn't, this is not a Warren, it might sit in Warren, but it's for all of Marshall County and it's for the surrounding area as well. People from Pennington, Polk, Kitson, Roseau County are certainly part of what this park is supposed to be about. And I always wondered why he wanted the tank, he harassed me for 3 or 4 years and he wanted this tank. And he seemed a little reluctant when I said, well, let's do something different, something a little more humble and a little less grandiose or whatever you want to call it. And it wasn't until after we had done a lot of this stuff that I found out the reason that he wanted the tank was because his father served in the military and he was on the tank. I'm not sure what his responsibility on the tank was. And they were in battle and they ran out of ammunition and his father became a prisoner of war. And so it was important to him, I think, for the tank or something to be here. He still talks about the tank, but so that was kind of the initial thing. The county board said, yeah, you can do that. And then I knew that I wasn't going to do it, that it had to be the veterans. So Brett Brandon, the Veteran Service Officer, he must be inside right now, but he found a lot of veterans to serve on the committee, and eventually we evolved into this. We talked about what we've done in how important it is to some folks to have something like this to say thank you to the veterans. We had one individual, and he did it anonymously. They did it, I don't know, it could have been a group. They did it anonymously, but they, after we got the initial fund started, which started with, we got a $10,000 donation. If you look, there's a plaque by the oak tree over here. The oak tree was planted by an acorn brought back from the battlefield in France in World War I. And planted on the courthouse lawn by, I think it was Judge Gwendolyn. It was like a relative of the gentleman that served and brought the acorn back. So you read the plaque, it's the legend of the oak tree. I'm not sure exactly how everything played out, but it got planted, and the gentleman that brought the acorn back was an opera singer, and he got on the battlefield, I'm not sure where, he got gassed with was it mustard gas is what they used in World War I, and it destroyed his vocal cords. So his great nephew, Billy Satry, became an opera singer, and when he heard that we were going to do this park, he called me one Sunday afternoon and he said, well, he'd like to start the fund going for us. And I said, well, that's great. And he said, what are you going to do with the trees out there when you start this park? And I said, well, part of the deal was that I wanted the county board to know that we were not going to touch a tree when we did this, that everything was going to be as it was. And he said, well, that's good, because if the oak tree was going, I'm not gonna donate. But so he gave us $10,000 and that kind of got us, gave us some hope. After that, we had an anonymous donor donate $40,000, and we had to match it, so that was $80,000. I would say to date we've probably spent a couple $100,000 on the project. We've got another $120,000 we're going to put big plants in between flagpoles. And we have a statue that we're hoping is here by Veterans Day. It should have been here by last Veterans Day. It'll sit on the bench over there. You guys know what PTSD is? We can all have it from things that happen to us. More prevalent with military service, the things that they go through in battle, or you probably see it today too in domestically in our police forces and things like that. Everything that goes on. We have a PTSD soldier. He's an amputee with a prosthetic leg, and a service dog that will sit on the bench over there, and it will be somewhat similar to the kneeling soldier and the battleground cross we have there. It's made by the same company. I think it will be spectacular when it gets here, and probably the thing that we were planning with the next thing for the park. We talked about the beautiful granite monuments that we're still hopeful it will get, but the veterans, it was more important to them to have something that symbolized what they'd gone through than the granite portion of it. So we went to the PTSD. So if you're driving through town anytime in the next month or so, keep looking for it, because it should be there. That's should be pretty special for the park as well. I told the sophomore group and Stephen Reed, you guys, you don't realize how much people do appreciate the freedom. I hope you guys cherish that as you grow older. But we have the sentence to serve guys, you know, the guys that probably DWIs or whatever. They're not bad people. They've made some poor choices along the way, but they come here and they do some things for us once in a while. And they've done a lot of things for the park as well. But when we were putting up the flagpoles, it was quite a project, because they were big and heavy, and we had to kind of put some things together, and these sentence to serve guys helped us do that. probably took us all afternoon. They were supposed to be gone, and there was about 15 of them, I think, that were here that day. And we soon got the flagpole put together, and we got it stood up and in place. And, we told them they could leave, and no, they weren't leaving. They wanted to be here when we raised the flag. And those 15 guys, you could have heard a pin drop as we went through the. It was, you know, it's nothing formal about it. We just raised the American flag, and it meant something to those guys. And I think that's our hope with what we're doing here at this park, is that it will mean something to you guys. You see veterans, these guys, these gentlemen, thank them for their service. It's a sacrifice. It changed their lives. Took them away from families, changed their lives forever in a lot of cases. I was at a graduation for my granddaughter in Holly. There was a gentleman that walked by me that had on a Vietnam veterans badge. Most of these guys are Vietnam vets. You have to search pretty hard for Korean and World War II vets now. But I reached over and I thanked him for his service, and just said thank you. Thought I'd just walk on by, and he said, "Well, did you serve?" And I said, "No, I didn't. But my brother did, and that's part of the reason why I got involved with the park thing. Was I had a brother that served in Vietnam, and he came back wounded after about a month over there, and came back and died basically 12 years later, partially from those wounds that he had gotten in Vietnam." So I said, "I know, but I had a brother that served over there, and he just seemed like he wanted to talk about it a little bit." And he said, "Well, yeah, I was in Vietnam, and my brother was in Vietnam at the same time. We both went missing the same day." And, so he said, "My folks got confirmation that we were both missing in action at the same time." And he said it just destroyed his parents. But so I visited for a couple seconds more. It's just on the street, and I said, "Well, thank you. It's nice to see that you made it back." He said, "Well, I'm okay." He said, "My folks were never the same. My brother came back." It was kind of, I don't know, enlightening to me that somebody that you met on the street wanted to share that with a total stranger, and how important it is that we say thank you for that kind of service and that kind of commitment. And it's not just the service person. Remember, these guys all have families and parents that they left behind, some spouses and children to serve in this country. So that's why we do this, is so that we never forget how important this freedom is. And if you want a good example of the freedoms that we enjoy in this country, all you have to do is look at the Ukraine and Russia right now. Look at Israel and the Gaza Strip, what it's doing, what war does to people, how it destroys not only the active military folks, but the civilians as well. And, so it's important that we not forget, and I hope that you guys use that website. I want to thank you guys for being the first group that took the initiative to do something like this. This is the Stephen Argyle version of the honor ride. There's a bunch of folks from the area that are out in Washington, D.C. right now, probably on their way back. But see the memorials out there. If you ever get a chance to go there, it's a memorable experience to see the memorials out there as well. So, you guys can wander around. Battleground Cross probably started in the Civil War. It's had the rifle in the ground, or I guess at that time it was probably muskets. And it would mark the place where a soldier lay dead. And they could go back and bury him there. The boots represent the fact that it's the last. That's how they marched into their last battle. change just means that they are forever in the service of this country. So that was kind of our central part of the park at the time. And, very humbling. Legion guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a reason why the soldier faces west. I think that's the way that it's always used. Burial of soldiers and stuff. So I had to do some research as far as the place of the soldier face and sort of thing. So there's a lot of information here. We'll see if you guys are as good as the sophomores. What war had the most casualties? Anybody know? Sophomores knew.
Civil War.
Civil War. Fought on our own soils. 620,000, and that probably doesn't even come close to what it really was with all the civilian casualties that were out there as well. During World War II, there were 12% of the population of this country that served. Today it's less than 1%. Partially because of the way that things are, and we haven't had the conflicts. I understand there's a couple thousand troops headed for the Middle East. Not sure where they're going to be stationed or anything like that, but definitely back in harm's way. So, you guys wander around. Thank you to the service guys that are here, the Legion members and veterans that are with you guys today. Don't forget to thank them. They'll appreciate it. So, wander around. You can look. The 5 branches of service that we recognized in our park. We put the Merchant Marines under the Navy, so we don't have a Merchant Marine. You guys have all the 5 branches of the service, right? Can I hear them? Army? Which one you got? Are you in the Army? Army? Okay, so Army. What else we got? Navy? Air Force? Marines?
Coast Guard.
Coast Guard? Okay, there's a new one. What's that one? Space Force. We do not have anything for the Space Force yet. We will, but I don't know where. I'm not sure when, because right now we don't have any any veterans that are currently members of the Space Force here. But we kind of wanted. At the time we were doing it, we weren't sure politically if that was going to last or not because of politics and other things. We recognize that. Any other questions, guys? I think when you're done inside, you guys can wander around and look at the park over, read the stones. There's branches of the service on one side and information on the back side. I think we're going to go a whole picture out here.
have to come up front. You have to come like front.
The bell's in the way. You
Yeah,
have to
so
come up
some,
closer to
maybe
the
you
bell.
guys can come and stand like
We'll help them up there. There you go.
Wider it would be. I feel like we can see
Is that everybody on there, you think?
Yeah, it's wider, but it's still, you can see
your
them.
video.
Yeah, you can see their faces.
I gotta get somewhere else. Yeah, I'm gonna stand in the bus if you're done. Still can't get. Can I bring Tom and a couple of you guys just come this way? Just go.
Hi everyone, I'm Brett Brandon, the Veteran Service Officer for the county. I just want to thank you all for being here today. Learned something today, got some meaning of it. I want to ask you guys a question. How many of you guys are part of some team or organization? Probably just about all of you. Raise your hand. All right. So you understand how good it feels to be part of that team and that organization. So what I want to leave you with is one thought. What does it mean to be a veteran? You've seen a lot of different phrases on the back of these monuments. And when you become a veteran, when you do your oath of enlistment, you become part of one of the greatest teams. So that's what it feels like to be part of that. And when you get done with that, when you're in there, you start feeling so much more pride in this country. When you come home on leaves or get out of the service, you really understand how good it is we have right here. Now you should have seen this on back of one of the monuments. And I'm going to just read it to you. It's really short, but it carries a lot of meaning. A veteran, whether active duty, discharged, retired, or reserve, is someone who at one point in their life wrote a blank check payable to the United States of America. For the amount of up to and including his or her life. That's what you're willing to give up, the sacrifice you're willing to do. That's part about being part of the ultimate team. Thank you. Have a good day.
Before we all take off, I'd like to thank all the staff that helped us make this possible and all the veterans that came out and let you guys learn about what had happened, what should have happened. And I just want to thank you all for being attentive and very polite with everybody and listening and being sorry. I just want to thank you all for paying attention and letting us do our thing for you to let you guys learn what they had gone through. And I mean, obviously I'm not as old as any of them, which is, but they, hey, I mean it in the most respectful way possible. But I'd like to thank you all, and then all the staff that helped us make this possible today.
There's a lot. The parting shot I want to leave with you guys is, so after I heard you guys are coming down here today, I sent an email to every school district in the area telling them how great the Stephen Argyle kids were for coming down and doing this, and what a great thing it was that you did today. I'm hoping that the guilt trip I laid on them brings some of those other school districts doing what you did today. This is a very good thing that you did, coming here and honoring the veterans, because it's a very humbling thing to do. So thank you guys, and for what it's worth, you're my favorite group of students today, so enjoy.